What's up, everybody? Welcome to the High Level Husband Podcast. I'm Tommy McCollister, joined by Diane McCollister.
Hey.
And so, guys, we're going to make this one a quick and impactful one. We just flew back in from Hawaii, went on a family vacation this week, which was great. But we did a post the other day about how our lives changed when we went from being lukewarm Christians to being all in Christians. And somebody had suggested that we do a podcast on what that actually looks like in our life. So we could touch on all the different things of how our lives were before, and then what it actually looks like now. And so we'll probably get into a little bit of that, but we want to break down what our day today looks like, and then our week looks like as well, of what that actually looks like to be all in for Christ. And so, most people, babe, they don't understand what it actually means. And we didn't, even in like the first 10 years of my faith journey from 23 to probably 33, I didn't understand what it meant. I thought you believed, you were saved, and you would go to church and you would pray, and that meant you were a great Christian, not realizing. And that was my life.
Yeah.
That I was falling way short, and that was unintentionally. And then you, because you were following my lead and you didn't have any other example in your life of Christianity, we're falling short in all those areas. And so then especially these past, 4 years, 5-ish, maybe 5, our lives have drastically changed, and we've figured out what it actually means to be a follower of Christ. And so we just want to be able to share that with you guys, because most people don't know. And so you think you're well, why isn't this happening in my relationship with God? Or what does that actually look like? Most people aren't actually telling you what that actually is, or you're really inconsistent in yourself. So you're missing the mark and not getting the feel to be able to feel what that actually is like, and get the benefit of all of that.
Absolutely.
So, guys, we're going to just kind of jump in. So I'll just kind of touch on a couple of things from the post, just so it was just kind of so it hits home for you guys. When we were lukewarm, we would argue more. Yeah, I'm just going to read some of these things for you guys. It's probably a little bit easier. So we were lukewarm. Not only did we argue more, but we leaned on our own strength, which left us exhausted and disconnected. We expected each other to fill our void only God could fill. We chased success in material things, but our souls felt empty. Our communication was surface level, avoiding the deeper hurts and wounds. We loved each other, but it wasn't unconditional. It was conditional on how we felt. That's such a huge one, guys, right there. Before I want to move on, it's
we didn't feel great.
So if you're stressed, you're tired, you're hungry, you're on your period, whatever it may be, well, it's conditional. Or if you're not getting sex in your relationship, it's conditional. All of that is based on how you're feeling. And so you'll react and respond those ways, rather than well, no, this is who we are. And it doesn't matter what the feelings and emotions don't dictate that. One of my mentors always said, amateurs base their decisions on their feelings and emotions, and pros base their decisions on their commitments. Well, we're committed to the Lord, and He's transformed our life. And because of that, we aren't going to let our feelings and emotions base anything in our life at all. 0 %.
Huge one.
We lacked true leadership. I wasn't leading spiritually, and she wasn't fully trusting. Diane was a nagger big time. She didn't trust me. She was the no person, and that's drastically changed in so much. And so I'm just going to kind of rip through these, and then we're going to know what our daily looks like. So now that we're submitted to Christ, it's drastically changed. Our marriage, God leads, so peace reigns. No more chaos, just clarity. We have vision of where we're heading and trust. Our marriage isn't built on feelings. It's built on faith and commitment. We handle struggles differently. Prayer replaces pride.
Yeah.
I lead with confidence, and she submits with trust.
Absolutely.
We don't expect each other to be perfect. We point each other back to Christ. I can't say this is one that's so true. Because nobody's perfect. Now, we should strive for it. I'll tell you that. I'm not going to be one of those Christians. We lean on grace, and that's just what it is. No. And give yourself grace. No, that's how we get to being, I think that, it used to be 65% of Americans are obese. I saw a stat the other day, it said 73%. Woo. It's crazy right now that
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's just crazy. That's where it's at. So
we should strive for excellence.
Right, because of that, right? And 85% of marriages are failing, 50% in divorce rate. The other 50 that stay together, only 15% say they actually are happy. And so we're wondering, but that's because sometimes people take the grace and they say, well, but give yourself grace. No, that's saying give yourself an easy way out. Show me in the Bible where it says, give yourself grace and don't worry about it. No, it's talking about the parable of the talents. It's talking about, Jesus says, my mother and brothers are those who hear the word of God and put it into practice. Faith, James talks about how faith works prove faith. And so this is where people miss the mark in so many ways. They can just think that because they're baptized and like, well, that just is what it is. God knows I'm a sinner. Read the book, Driven by Eternity. Read the book by Driven by Eternity. I actually recommend listening to the book because there's a dramatization part. It's a little weird at first, but then you like get your mind blown by it. It's phenomenal. You're gonna look at life drastically different after you read that book. But that's just so much where it's at. So we often do that in our relationship, babe, where we'll point each other back to Christ. So like whether you're kind of being a certain way, I'll be like, no, babe.
Right. You can call each other out.
Yeah, stop speaking over yourself that way.
Yeah.
Or you'll do it to me.
Yeah. And it works and it's good. And that's what needs to happen. I mean, we can't just like you were saying, you can't just say, oh, just give yourself grace, That's not how things change.
It'll be okay, babe. That's just, I know life's tough.
If
like,
you just give yourself grace, then you give yourself grace on too many things and then nothing ever gets accomplished.
It's crazy, like what kids can do, adults can do, what we all can do because we speak these things over ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, but when we stop of like what is actually possible, and we're living proof of this, why I love our testimony is we were the most lukewarm couple out there, worldly, all the different things, docile, passive. And now God's like, okay, now watch what I'm going to do with you guys. I'm going to make you completely on the other opposite end of that spectrum to show what can happen when God, because he says, my power is made perfect in weakness, right? So he took our weakness and he took his power and he let us now shine because of that. And it's crazy what is possible through it. So all glory to God on that. But just be able to support each other with that and be able to speak of it gives permission. Well, babe, like my Bible's right here. Like I bring my Bible's with us wherever we pretty much like we're on the plane, Bible's with us. We're on this trip, it's with us. It's always on my desk next to me in coaching calls. We can speak that over because we're in the word so much. We can speak that over each other and be like, well, babe, that's not what God says.
And that's the truth.
And then, no, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, here's another verse. But if you only know 2 verses, John 3:16, and that's about it, like, well, guess what? Good luck preaching something over your, speaking life and authority over your spouse because you know the word of God. So we do that tremendously. This is the last couple of things. Our intimacy isn't just physical. It's emotional, spiritually, and deeply fulfilling. I will tell you right now that nothing fills my cup. We just got back from Hawaii, and it was a lateral movement, if not even a step down to a certain extent. And we had a great time. Our kids said this is the best trip they've ever been on. I enjoyed myself. It's immensely beautiful. Yeah. But this right here fills me up more than that because guess what? I'm just, and if they can't bring God with you in those moments, this is what fills me up. Preaching the word of God, leading other people, doing all that. That's what fills me up. And so that's what fills our conversations up. That's what fills our sex up. That fills up everything. But without it, it's like, it just is what it is. It's not that great. Like
this has purpose.
Like Hawaii before would have been sad when we came home. Like I was pumped to come home. Even though I enjoyed myself, it's just different. Yeah. But because now we're not lukewarm, we actually understand it. And so there's so many more things we could touch on, but I just wanted to touch on just a little bit of that before we get into our habits on this, babe. And so we're going to break this down for you guys. Diane and our habits are almost identical, our weeks, because as Isaiah says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. When somebody thinks about you, I want you to ask you this question. When somebody thinks about you, do they think, whatever your name is, as for Mark or Steve or whoever, as for you in your house, you serve the Lord? When they think of you, men, like, oh, their family serves the Lord. That's what they're about. Like their life is that. Like if that answer is no, then you're missing the mark. What do they think about you in those areas? And I know now when the people think about us, they think about that.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so number 2, can you write that down real quick, babe, on that? I just want to make a note of that. As for me and my house, we serve the Lord. Yeah. And when people ask the question, I just want to remember that. And so number 2, guys, so I want you to really remember that question and ask yourself, sit in solitude with that. Pray on it. And if you're missing the mark, it's okay. I'm not giving you grace. What I'm saying is fix it. Do something about that. Change it. Just as if you're obese, you can change and all of a sudden somebody thinks you as you're not. Like they'll see you differently in those aspects, right? You can always do something different about everything. And that's the cool thing about life. You have full control. You have full control. And that's awesome. And that's why. And I don't want to go too deep on that. So
We could go down a rabbit hole.
the number one commandment that Jesus says, number one commandment is Mark 12:30, to love God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and all of your strength. That's the number one commandment. That's all. Keyword is all. Everything, all. And if you can't answer that question, if somebody doesn't say that about you, then they know you're not living that way as all of that, right? And it's not a suggestion. And that's what people think the Bible is a suggestion.
Yeah.
And when it's a commandment, that is a commandment. I command you to love God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all your mind, and all of your strength. That's a commandment, not a suggestion.
And most people aren't doing that.
We weren't doing that.
No.
The stats is only 4% of Christians are actually doing it. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Well, you're wondering why there's no fruit in your marriage. You're wondering why your wife's not following you. You're wondering why your emotions are basing and your feelings are basing your decisions and not your commitments. You're wondering that, well, because it's not that. Well, I'm not going to do this whole podcast on that, but I want to break that down for you. What is all? Your heart is your worship and your prayer. Like that is your feelings and emotions. Are those stuck on God, or are they stuck on your finances and you're not getting sex from your wife, or the stresses of the world, or Trump and Biden and all this other stuff? Are your feelings in that, or are your feelings and emotions tied up in God? Like you're just yearning for him. Like you're crying out for him. Like it says in the Bible, David was a man after God's heart. It didn't say he was a man after Trump. Right. And I'm a Republican. I just don't waste my time going down that thing because I'll focus on what I'm on control, which is my house. And if I control my house, control myself, then it controls my house, and my house then controls community, which we have multiple communities as you're about to see. Then that changes the city, and the city changes the state, and the city changes the country and the world. We literally have clients all over the world. It's crazy what two people can do when you decide to lead yourself there. So your feelings and your emotions is your heart. Your soul is your true identity, who God created you to be. Are you being authentically who God created you to be? Well, you say, I don't know who that is. Well, it's because you're not doing all of this and these daily habits. And so we have to break that down. Your mind is your mind, right? Like, is your wisdom and knowledge, are what you thinking about studying and learning, is it all about God? Or is it about fantasy football and your sports team, and you know who's playing this weekend, or whatever it is? You know more about your TV shows than you know about God. Well, then just not all of your mind. And then the last is your strength. Are you using your abilities and talents to serve and create disciples? Are you your body on point to serve the Lord? And if the answer is no on that, well, then you're not doing that. I love being physically fit for multiple different reasons, but one of them is I want to be a picture of possibility and use my body as like best I can to squeeze every little bit out of this life.
And that's what God tells us to do, to honor our temples.
100%.
He created our temples. Why aren't we respecting them?
So, guys, let's get into the daily habits of this. So we're going to start with our daily, and then we'll touch on the weekly of what it is. Ours are very similar.
Yeah.
On it.
Almost identical.
So for me on my daily habits, Diane starts a little bit different. This is where we're differ.
Yeah. I start every single morning with waking up. I usually sit in some solitude and pray and read my Bible every single morning.
Every morning.
Every morning.
I wake up to that, or if she's already out of bed, then
I've already done it.
Then she's in the bathroom doing her makeup, getting ready for the day. Yeah. And what are you doing when you're doing that?
I'm either listening to a podcast, a sermon, a book, something that's faith driven.
Keywords, guys, they're faith driven. She's not listening to some Bachelorette review or anything like that. Like it's like she's listening to a sermon or a faith-based book or podcast that's like faith-based driven.
Yes.
Because what you consume, you only have 100% in your brain, right? Whatever you consume. So if you're consuming sports, it's pushing God out in certain aspects. Some people were created to be sports broadcasters or be athletes and then use that platform for God. But that's a few small percentage points on that. I'm not saying you can't enjoy sports, but it's got to be probably the least amount of things you're doing per week. I know people who listen to podcasts for hours on end, sports talk radio, all of that stuff. Or you're listening to secular music because you enjoy it. Well, guess what? Now you're putting in less stuff that's of God. I was just listening to a book on a walk right before this, and the guy was saying, gosh, I think he was saying, every book you read is 2 years of life experience. Every book you read is 2 years of life experience. And so no joke, he said he read 200 books in 1 year because he wanted to catch up. And he says, and so when people ask him how old he is, he tells them in his book years, he says, I'm 400 years old or whatever. It's crazy. And but it's the truth. I've noticed that. Like here I am spitting knowledge and wisdom from
From a book.
somebody else, a book that I was listening to today,
Mhm.
which I did an hour today. I listen to books. I don't read them. The only thing I actually read, or very rarely read, is I actually read the Bible every day. That I don't listen to the Bible, but I rarely read an actual book. I always listen to them. So Diane does that, and then she's in that. So for me, I wake up in the morning, I pray some solitude. That's only about 5 to 10 minutes. And then when I get up, I listen to a book for about half hour. And while I'm making breakfast, eating breakfast, and I go on an immediate walk right after that. And so I'm about a half hour, 40 minutes in that book. After that, we both work for about 4 to 5 hours. And then when we go to the gym, I listen to worship music. You listen to the worship music if you're listening to music that day.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We
If
don't
not, then I'm working out with our kids.
Right. And then after that, so we have our physical, we go to the gym. This is daily. You know, we take Sabbaths on Sunday. This is daily. After that, when we come home, we have dinner as a basic family. We're always in the same room at least, because sometimes we eat at different times depending on, because I eat different than them, and then the kids eat different. So it's just we're always in the same room. We go on a nightly walk every single night. And on that nightly walk, we're having conversations like we're having with you right now, or we're having here.
Growth-driven conversations, God conversations, all kinds of things.
What God's teaching us, what we read in the Bible that day, or what the book we were reading that day told us about, or how the workout was, or what our coaching calls were like, things like that. Goals, dreams, we're being funny. I'm always playful and peaceful. After that, after we go on that nightly walk, which is about 20 to 30 minutes, we come home, we play a game with our kids for about 30 minutes. After we play the game with our kids for 30 minutes, we'll watch a show with them for about 30 minutes. Half the time is a faith-based show. And the other half, it's if it's a secular program, it's something that is not racy or things like that. That's going to push the envelope. And we do that. And then after the kids go to bed, that's when I do my longer solitude time. It's about usually anywhere from bare minimum 15 minutes, but typically around 30 to 45 minutes
or longer.
Because there's plenty of times, and I can't believe we've said this on here before on the podcast, where you've been like,
I'm like waiting for him to come up, because it's nighttime and we haven't,
maybe she's wanting to get some
action.
Some action. And she's like, are you coming up? You've been in solitude for an hour and a half. I'll do my solitude. I'll sit in there in prayer. Just like listen to what God has to say to me, all that different stuff. Sometimes I'll take out my phone during that because he's telling me, and I'll write down things. Then I'll put my phone down, get back in, things like that. But I'm not like checking Instagram during solitude time. No. And then after that, when we get into bed, I read the Bible then. Again, she's reading the Bible, and then we'll usually talk. And that's the night. That's what our day looks like every day. So if you can see, we've got prayer multiple times, the word multiple times. We're in a personal development book for at least 40-ish minutes probably by the end of the day. We're in worship music. We've got quality time with each other, having growth-driven conversations with ourselves and with our kids. So that's our daily. Now let's get to the weekly. And what the weekly looks like is, I was talking about this with one of my friends the other day, and he broke his week. And I was like, dude, what's funny? Because he came in and coached our clients. I was like, here's what my week looks like. I broke it down for our clients on the thing of what our nightly looked. And he was about 5 days a week in some type of discipleship or ministry, Bible study, five days a week at some point in time during that week. Same thing with us, because if you look at this, Monday nights, we do our group coaching call for our clients
together.
And we do it together. It's faith-based. Wednesday nights, she takes our kids to the youth group. And during that time, recently, one of my Timothy's is somebody who we mentor. He's recently started a Bible study. I now go, but not as the lead it, just to go. So now on Wednesday nights, I'm in the Bible study. Thursday, I lead our clients in a Bible study. Saturday, I have a men's group that I've been leading at the house for over 2 years now. That's at our house. And it's high-level men who have developed up, and they come to our house, hour and a half. During that time,
I go to a women's Bible study for a couple hours, usually every Saturday.
So she's doing it. Saturday after that, and this is starting this Saturday, I'm going straight directly from our Bible study ending. 4 of us who are in that are staying back, and we're doing a 6-month discipleship program together, 4 of us, and that's going to be about 2 hours. So now all Saturday morning from 8:30 until probably noon to 12:30
Mm-hmm.
will be all discipleship. Then
On Sunday,
Sunday,
Sunday we have a discipleship program that we're in. So,
but we start the day with
oh
church.
yeah, with church, yeah, first. Yeah.
So we go to church Sunday morning
Mm-hmm.
as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get back from that, we have a discipleship program that we're
Yeah.
in. But that discipleship program takes about 2.5, 3 hours worth of work to
Yeah.
prepare for
Yeah.
that.
Plus another 2.5, probably easily hours of during it also.
So that's Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So our whole life revolves around this. And then our business, which is basic, is just a ministry for us,
Mm-hmm.
is speaking, podcasting, content creation. And then we run our program, which is High Level Husbands. And now we have a side program, a High Level Wives. And that's all ministry. So our lives are all around this. Well, you would say, well, yeah, but that's not what I've been called to do. Oh, you are.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're somebody who is a CEO, an executive, a business owner, or you are work at the 7-Eleven, or you're a school teacher, whatever you're called to be, it's been given to you of God to ministry. Mm-hmm. Now, most people aren't in the job that God actually created them to actually do, because God says he knew you before you were in the womb. So you're not actually, and so he knows what you were chosen to do. Most people just didn't know because they weren't going all in, all heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so we've just sold out for 401k plans or money. And that's not necessarily your fault. Nobody's taught this. Mm-hmm. But when you figure it out, you get into it. Because we've only been doing this now for almost 5 years. Mm-hmm. We didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't start till 39.
You have to spend time with him to be able to hear from him, for him to be able to guide you to what you're supposed to be doing.
And then he who can be trusted with little can be trusted with many. God sees that we're all in. And then when he asks us to do something small, it's obedient, obedient, obedient. And then the things just get bigger, 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 bigger. He might come out the gate with you a hot and make it a big one. That's what it was for us. It was like the biggest thing ever. And then he was like, all right, you guys can be trusted. I'm about to just throw you big one, big one, big one, big one, big one on you because of that. And so that'll be the same thing for you. So if you guys don't see that our whole life revolves around ministry, we're just saying, when do you play golf? When do you watch football? When do you do all this other, get drunk? We don't do any of that stuff. Why would we? Like I just said, we went to Hawaii and it was a step down. Like I wanted to be doing the others. I wanted to be at Bible study. I didn't want to be on the beach. And I loved the beach. It was great to watch my kids play on the beach. And I had an amazing time swimming in the ocean with them for hours. But I wanted to be at Bible study. Like it's what's crazy. You start really just desiring only this. That's why it says in the Bible, he must increase and you must decrease. Paul says this, I consider my life worth nothing to me. I'm the same way. I just see that he just wants to finish the race. I tell that Diane all the time, I just want to finish the race. Mm-hmm. That means if I have to die next week, cool. If I die in 40 years from now, cool. I'm going to finish the race. And that means we're doing what we're doing now and only going to keep growing until the day we die. There is no retirement. It's all in. But because of that, I'm full of life. I'm joyful. I wish you guys could see the old versions of us.
It's not somebody you would follow, that's for sure.
But it's all in, guys. So where in the other aspects is you all in? Our finances, we tithe over 10%, way over. Like, it's crazy the things that we're doing. And maybe one day I'll touch on like the certain aspects of obedient thing, financial things that God's asked us to do. I just don't want it to come across as a flex, but like we give an insane amount of money away, an insane amount of money. And it's been a blessing. Our finances are that, right? Like Sundays is our Sabbath, even though we're at church and have the disciple program, that's a day of rest where we're not doing any other work stuff, no podcasting, no content creation, no things like that. Sabbathing, right? Like, and so our whole life revolves around it. Well, then when people say, well, how does your life get that way? Yeah, you have to take your whole life and revolve it around it. Now, we're on the same page with that. Most of you guys probably are not, but it starts with you. When you revolve your life around it, you can't force it on anybody. You have to show the fruit. And because you're designing your daily and your weekly habits around God, it eventually will. If your wife doesn't want to go to church, you go to church. Yeah. If your wife doesn't want to read the Bible, you read the Bible.
Right. Don't not do those things because she doesn't want to.
You read the personal development books. You listen to the sermons. You sit in solitude. Everybody has the time to do it. Don't give me no BS that. Do not give me no BS. You don't have the time. Even if you work, I think it's 80 hours a week and sleep for 7 hours a night, you still have like 48 hours a week of like, what are you doing with your time? It's insane. Well, I don't have enough time. You got 48 extra hours. You can't tell me you can't put aside time for God.
God gave you enough time.
Plenty of time. Well, I'm just too busy. Well, then it shows you where your priorities are.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're wondering where no fruit. God can't bless a life that's out of order, because then he'll be blessing a life that's not doing it his way.
Yeah.
And there's only two ways to do it: God's way or the wrong way. He's not going to bless the wrong way, because then he would be doing things showing you that that's an okay way to do it. No, he's only going to bless when it's over in the other side. And blessings aren't always you being a millionaire. Blessings are peace and joy.
Yeah.
The fruits of the Spirit: peace, love, joy, gentleness, self-control. Like, go see what the fruits of the Spirit are. That's what everybody wants. You get all of that. Like, things of the world don't matter. But those things tend to come too when you get those first, because once you get the first, you stop caring about the rest. And then God says you're ready for the rest.
That's
But
right.
if you go and get those other ones first, you won't get those. You won't get the fruits of the Spirit, because then you're going to depend on those other ones. Whereas if you could depend on the fruits of the Spirit, it's just crazy what happens. And so this is what our daily looks like, our weekly looks like. Ask yourself, when somebody thinks about you in your house, will they say you serve the Lord?
Mm-hmm.
Like 100%. Your life is all about it.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself, where is your time actually going? How much time do you actually give to God a day? Is he your number one? And if he's not your number one, change it. Do it. That's what we do in High Level Husband and High Level Wife. It's about making you a man or a woman of God who is so much confidence, so much authority, and so much power, and so much on purpose that your marriage is like on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's why our program is different.
Yeah.
Because we went from not being that to this,
Yeah.
and it's available to all, if you're willing to pick up your cross and carry it. Most people just aren't willing to pick up their cross and carry it.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're not realizing is they're picking up the world and they're carrying it, and that's heavy. But Jesus says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So one way you're going to choose your hard. Just one has an upside and one doesn't. I promise you that. So this is a great podcast. I know I yapped the ears off. Diane's not feeling the best. She's got some,
Basically vertigo.
She's got some vertigo
Stuff
going
going
on.
on.
But she still showed up for the podcast, guys.
That's right.
So, all right, babe, I love you. We're going to go ahead to the gym. Even with the vertigo, she go and get it in. And then we'll come back and lead our group coaching call. So, guys, we love you. If you enjoyed this at all, please rate it 5 stars. If you're on YouTube, give us a subscribe and a like. And if you're interested in coaching, click the link below, and we'll go from there. So, love you guys. Have a great day. God bless you.
Bye.